past the time to take a look at the latest development as far as, the top bulletin and of course what is transpired across the country is concerned. And of course we'll be bringing you up to speed with what is happening, and of course a lot has happened this particular day. And of course in line with that is a day that we have seen President William Ruto dissolve his cabinet, with the exception of Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and of course the Office of Deputy President. And of course in line with that, now we'll take a look at some of very critical component. I'm talking about the Article 152 of the Constitution that talks about the cabinet, the functions of the cabinet, and of course the procedure of appointing the cabinet secretaries, their role, their functions, and of course the procedure under which a cabinet secretary can be removed from office. And that is what happened today. And of course there is a matter of constitution, and of course the framework and the guidelines that are put into place. And of course soon we'll be running you through some of the graphics just to bring you up to speed what Article 152 of the Constitution says about the removal of office. And of course in line with that, some very key, critical and component. Remember, what transpired today is something that if we can interpret in a very legal term, as far as Constitution is concerned, there is proper procedure laid down in law that involves if a cabinet secretary is removed from office, of course that motion shall be supported by at least a third of a member of parliament. In line with that, then the committee of 11 members will be formed. In line with that, just to take a look, or rather to do investigation in regard to some of the grounds that are laid down under the law that stipulates a procedure and a manner in which a member, or rather a cabinet secretary, can be removed from office. And remember, a cabinet secretary can be removed in office on the ground of gross violation of the provision of the Constitution or any other law, and where there are serious reasons to believe, or rather for believing, that the cabinet secretary has committed a crime under the national or international law, or for gross misconduct. Then the National Assembly shall appoint a select committee comprising of 11 of its members to investigate the matter and report to the National Assembly within 14 days. Then the cabinet secretary has the right to appear and be represented before the select committee during this investigation. Whether found guilty or not, the cabinet secretary will be provided with an opportunity to be heard. If a resolution under clause 9 of the Constitution that require the president to dismiss a cabinet secretary is supported by a majority of the members of the National Assembly, then the Speaker of the National Assembly shall promptly resolve and send that communicate the message to the president. Then president will act upon the recommendations and of course investigation guided by the Constitution. And now the question that many people are asking is, this particular process, did the process follow the due procedure of the law, and what are we looking into? And of course, to just put us into perspective, that is one and only Elijah Roto. Is a advocate, wakili, and of course wakili, thank you so much for making time. A lot has happened, wakili. All right, so wakili, asante sana for making time. Well, a lot has happened this particular evening, and of course, to be precise, the latest development that has just unfolded in regard to the sacking of cabinet secretary by President William Ruto. And of course there is this a matter of constitutional legality as far as this particular process is concerned. Now the question is, did the president follow the due procedure in, of course, dissolving his cabinet, wakili?
Thank you very much for your question. The simple answer to it is indeed, yes, the president did follow it. So
Wakili, can you hear me?
Apologies, I seem to be having an echo.
Right.
But what I would just like to yes. Yes, sir.
Proceed, Wakili.
Yes, I can hear you. Allow me to, okay, yes. What I would just like to state here is that the president has the power under Article 152(5), which indicates that the president, in relation to its cabinet secretary, they dismiss a cabinet secretary. That is under Article 152(5)(b), which makes that provision. And so the other provisions that you had alluded to point to in situations in which the president may now be required by either other public entities or other individuals to have special procedures made towards the removal of a cabinet secretary. And as you had alluded to, of course, this is done through the National Assembly, where at least a quarter of the members of the National Assembly may propose a motion to the requiring the president to now dismiss a cabinet secretary. And there are several grounds in which the president, that various grounds that are examined. One which looks into the gross violation of the provisions of the Constitution or any other written law that govern our country in Kenya, and also in instances where there's been reasons to believe that the said cabinet secretary either has committed a crime under our national or international law, or just by gross misconduct. And so those other provisions, that procedures that have been laid out is when individuals or bodies want to speak to the president to request him to either dismiss a specific cabinet secretary or the entire cabinet as this case. But for what has occurred today is that the president has exercised this power under 152(5) Part B, which indicates that the president may dismiss a cabinet secretary. There is also another office that is of peculiar concern, that is the office of the Attorney General, where the president relied on Section 12 of the Attorney General Act, which speaks to the procedures of the removal from office, the Attorney General, and it sets out the grounds such as serious violation of the Constitution, gross misconduct, physical and mental incapacity, incompetence, bankruptcy, and as some of the grounds in which the Attorney General may be removed. And so the president used that Section 12 of the Attorney General's Act to provide ground for to indicate it as the point in which he's relied upon to dismiss the holder of the office of the Attorney General. And also for when you look at the provisions of the holder of the office of the Attorney General, these are also stipulated within our Constitution. And it is interesting to note that while the holder of the office of the Attorney General is treated under our Constitution under Article 56, categorized as other offices, lumped together with other independent offices such as the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the provisions of Article 156 are silent in terms of the procedure for removal. And that's why it necessitated the president to go to Section 12 of the Attorney General Act, which now provides for the removal of the Attorney General. So this sets, again, of course, it sets up the precedent under the new dispensation of our Constitution that indeed the president can dismiss his cabinet, and now it is upon him to start the process again of finding new cabinet secretaries. Of course, based on his statement, he indicated that the current principal secretaries are going to hold the fort, whose role majorly, they do play the role similar to that of a chief executive officer in relation to the various state departments that they do chair. So that is my take on these provisions of the Constitution and the specific law that was cited on the Attorney General. Over to you.
All right, Wakili, so what option does this sacked CS have right now? Do they have any legal avenue where they can actually challenge maybe the decision, or what is the way forward from here, Wakili?
Yes, for the cabinet secretaries, it's important that they, of course, they did understand the nature of their appointment, that they are there to ensure that the commitments of the presidency and also in relation to the manifesto and the vision of the current regime are implemented. And because they do serve at the pleasure of the president, then it is upon them to now have that recourse and have the discussions with the president. And I am sure that these are procedures that they had discussions about because there have been several cabinet meetings preceding the decisions that have been shared out today by His Excellency. So these are positions where it is for the head of state to determine whether he wants a specific cabinet secretary to continue serving under his administration or not. And in this case, the president has decided that he does not want the entire cabinet save for the prime cabinet secretary and, of course, his deputy president. And that can also be inferred in the sense that the formation of this administration was based upon political agreements in terms of coalitions that were formed towards establishing this administration.
All
and
right.
Of course, the president has alluded to.
All right, and of course, Wakili, now that we have whatever is happening right now, then we have this Article 152 of the Constitution, which in this particular...
So it remains to be seen whether...
All right, Wakili, now that pretty quick, and even as we wind up this particular discussion based on the legality of the decision that President William Ruto took today that led to the sacking of at least 22 cabinet secretaries, with just one exceptional prime cabinet secretary. Well, in the Constitution, this the article, and when I cite Article 152, that lays the framework and even in some sort try to protect these CS. Well, now that the dice is cast, and it seems like their fate is at the hand of president, and of course, so from here, so what period probably in law should we expect now the country to have the next cabinet secretaries?
Yes, in relation to the period, that is also a place that we would categorize it as a gray area, because the grayness in the sense that the law is silent, but it is expected that the president would be able to form his cabinet in the shortest time possible as the negotiations continue. And that procedure in terms of the appointment of a cabinet secretary is also laid out within the law. We should also take note of the period in which the current president took before appointing this current, the outgoing cabinet secretaries. I think it took about a month or so for him to fully establish his cabinet, and so it remains to be seen that the period in which it took him to appoint his cabinet might also be reflective of the same. That notwithstanding, I would say that does not mean that the relevant ministries and state departments will not function. I do know that many a times the principal secretaries actually together with the secretariat and the staff that work in various ministries are actually the individuals that drive the process, and I do not foresee any challenges in terms of implementation of the plans that have been set out.
All right.
So this will go on as the ordinary work is expected to continue going on, say for now, until the new cabinet secretaries come in, and we shall be briefed accordingly in the relevant ministries. So we do not know at the moment what the number in which the president would decide, because the constitution only provides that period between the number between 14 and 22. So it remains to be seen whether the president will have a lean cabinet or will stick to the exact number or have a reduction. But even the wishes of many Kenyans who are calling for a reduction in number of cabinet, that also might reflect the same in terms of the next appointing cabinet. But that, of course, will remain purely the decision of His Excellency.
All right, thank you, Wakili Elijah Rotok, for making time to shed some light on this, constitutional matter, and in regard to what has transpired today, in regard of the sacking of 22 cabinet secretaries by President William Ruto, and now putting a country in a state of, shock by this latest development. And of course, it's a story that I will be bringing you comprehensive coverage in our subsequent bulletin. So, Wakili, asante sana for making time.
Thank you.
All right, and now, apart from that, now that we have put you into perspective as far as the law is concerned, and whether the question of if President William Ruto actually followed the law in sacking his cabinet, now that is into perspective. And of course, now for the next 30 minutes or so, I will be jumping direct into our top stories. But first thing first, our top stories tonight.
Tonight, you are fired. Ruto fires all cabinet secretaries but spares prime cabinet secretary and deputy president in unprecedented move. Hardworking or controversial, you must go home. Ruto goes for both top performer, close allies and controversial cabinet secretaries. Also tonight, give dialogue a chance. Migori Governor urged Gen Z to embrace Ruto's call for national dialogue. Listen to the voices of the people. Mudavadi urged leaders to adopt people-based approach while making decisions.
This is KUTV Primetime News with Auma Evans.
All right, John Opio is our sign language interpreter tonight. Remember, you can follow this broadcast on all of our social media platform. You can tweet us on X at KUTV_Kenya at Auma Evans. And remember to use the hashtag Primetime News. So tonight we begin with the latest. President William Ruto has this afternoon made a shocking announcement to fire all cabinet secretaries, including the Attorney General, but with an exception of Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Ruto, in explaining his bold call, said that recent political pressure conceived by the anti-finance bill protest influenced his move to dissolve cabinet. Munene Weru opens our bulletin tonight with that report.
That President William Ruto would make a cabinet shake-up was no longer a question of if but when, and each passing day cabinet secretaries held their breaths anxiously.
Over the past 2 years.
However, Thursday the 11th was the day of reckoning for cabinet secretaries, and when most Kenyans expected a cabinet reshuffle to the list, President William Ruto shocked the nation by firing all cabinet secretaries and the Attorney General. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, reaffirming his apex position in Ruto's government, was left untouched.
I have today decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the cabinet secretaries and Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya, except the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. And of course, the office of the Deputy President is not affected in any way.
Ruto, in explaining his radical move, said the recent political pressure stemming from the anti-finance bill protests put him between a rock and a hard place. Cabinet secretaries, most of whom have been controversial for the wrong reasons, setting themselves up for crucifixion.
Recent events that necessitated the withdrawal of the finance bill, which will require a review and reorganization of our budget and fiscal management, have brought us to an inflection point.
A majority of Ruto's cabinet was drawn from Ruto's support system during his race to State House. In his speech today, the president announced to extend the olive branch between his political hood, confirming rumors of a government of national unity following Tuesday's KICC convention with opposition chiefs.
I will immediately engage in extensive consultations across different sectors and political formations and other Kenyans, both in public and private, with the aim of setting up a broad-based government that will assist me in accelerating and expediting the necessary.
The gaping hole left by retrenched cabinet secretaries will in the meantime be filled by principal secretaries who, in tandem with state officers, will keep the government engine running before a new government is freshly reconstituted. Munene Weru, KUTV.
Now, President William Ruto's purge has not spared even the closest of allies, as Doris Charlo reports in the following report. Whether ranked top-performing cabinet secretary like Professor Kithure Kindiki or controversial CS like Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi, all were shown the exit door.
In what was seen as succumbing to pressure over the anti-finance bill protest, President Ruto, while dissolving the cabinet, said the decision was made after he had reflected and listened to what Kenyans wanted. Among the cabinet secretaries sent home were Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi. Under his tenure, The agriculture docket faced several challenges, including the alleged distribution of fake fertilizers to farmers. The CS, however, denied these allegations, terming them as propaganda. Also out in the cold is former head CS Susan Nakhumicha, who during the nationwide medic strike received backlash for her inaction in ending the strike. A major issue with the medics was the posting of medical interns, a situation that has yet to be remedied in full. The ministry has also faced several other challenges, including a vaccine shortage in the country. The Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu has been blamed for the delay in the employment of junior secondary school GSS teachers. Retired teachers continue to complain about their retirement benefits being delayed. Additionally, public school students in the country may lack nutrition due to the proposed bill that plans to cut off the food program in schools if the contentious 2024 finance bill is passed. On Wednesday, Cabinet Secretary of Roads and Transport Kipchumba Murkomen appeared before the Senate to answer questions regarding his performance. Murkomen told the Senate his ministry had a pending bill of 165 billion shillings that requires to be paid to pave way for further works on roads, where he complained the lack of sufficient resources and listed it as an obstacle to delay in road development projects. President Ruto said that the decision was made after he had reflected and listened to what Kenyans wanted. Doris Chalo, KUTV.
And still on the head of state, President William Ruto's bold decision to dismiss his entire cabinet has elicited a winding reaction from Kenyans. Many have lauded the president's sweeping action as a firm step towards accountability, while others contend that only underperforming ministries should have been shown the door.
Sasa hiyo rais akifanya kitendo mbaya angeenda na wafisati wenye wako serikalini. Kama ungechungulia katikati ya hao uone nani mwenye anafaili kwa kazi, wewe ndio umefuta tu polepole, unafuta mmoja mmoja ukireplace polepole na akili yako. Na hao mawaziri wenye walikuwa wanafanya kwa serikali hao, sasa wewe unachunguza polepole kama president, unachunguza polepole, sio kufuta wote.
Alright, you're due to our first break here on KUTV Primetime News. Remember, plenty more to follow after the break.
So San Andrea produce a lot of runners, which is the seedlings, as compared to Chandler. And then it is also more productive in terms of fruits. So inatoa a lot more fruits faster than Chandler. So that was the inspiration behind getting into San Andrea.
Kenyatta University will hold its 55th graduation ceremony on Friday, 19th July 2024 at the main campus along the Thika Superhighway. KUTV will provide live coverage of the graduation ceremony from 8 a.m. The ceremony will also be streamed live on KUTV and KU website, Lola app and all KU social media platforms. For more information, please contact the Office of the Registrar Academic on 020-870-3092 or 0786-335111 or visit the KU website on www.ku.ac.ke. The theme for the graduation ceremony is Education for Prosperity and Sustainable Development. Kenyatta University, transforming higher education, enhancing lives.
Access to knowledge, solution to unanswered questions.
Guidelines to pursuing your rights and repossessing your property, intellectual or material.
You are watching KUTV Primetime News with Auma Evans.
Right, welcome back and thank you for choosing to stay with us. Now let's move on. The High Court has declined to issue orders to stop the imposition of the housing levy, which requires Kenyans to pay 1.5% of their gross salary towards housing extended to the informal, as well as acknowledging the significant public interest in the matter that had previously been ruled unconstitutional. According to the arguments from the state and petition challenging the Affordable Housing Act 2024, halting the levy will disrupt the ongoing projects and contracts. The court has indicated that the petition will be heard on priority basis, suggesting that a full judicial review of the act's constitutionality and the grievances raised by the petitioners will follow. Brian Auma reports. Right, now let's switch gears to Migori County. Now, the Migori governor, Dr. Ochilo Ayako, has called upon young people in the country to tone down their criticism against the government and engage in proposed dialogue to dissolve issues that follows several attempts by other leaders in Kenya, advising Gen Zs to President William Ruto's call for dialogue and cease from harmful protest. As Songoro Masi Maira reports, Gen Zs on their Twitter pages have vowed to continue with their protest on July 16th, complaining that some of their demands were not met.
Despite leaders from different parts of the country advising the GNCs to heed President Ruto's call for dialogue and shun from destructive protests, the GNCs still stand firm and show the reluctance to the call. While addressing residents in Migori County, Governor Dr. Ochilo Ayako stated that the youth need to agree to the dialogue as earlier proposed by President Ruto, arguing that through dialogue many issues have been solved in Kenya since independence.
We cannot resolve our issues if we are not talking, if we are not discussing freely, and if we are not inclusive in that discussion.
However, Ochilo commended the youth for finally coming out to demand accountability, hence bringing an end to injustices in making Kenya a better country.
I want to encourage the young people, the Gen Zs, to seize the opportunity and join in that discussion. Those who are available can join it. Those who choose to protest can continue churning out areas of concern through peaceful protest.
Ochilo advised the youth to trust and choose a few members to represent them in the proposed dialogue in order to address some of their grievances.
There is no other opportunity. There is no other methodology other than Kenyans coming together and discussing.
However, on their Twitter pages, the Gen Z have confirmed to fill the streets again on 16th of July as they feel many of their grievances are not yet being considered. Songoro Masimaira, KUTV.
And now, in the wake of Kenya's push for reforms in all sectors, Prime and Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has emphasized the need for government to listen more to the voices of the people and adapt a people-based approach model more than ever before while making decisions. Mudavadi was speaking at the Kenya Schools of Government in a meeting attended by other senior government officials. Theo Masharia with the details.
As accountability calls continue to mount on government officials across all divides, thanks to the Gen Z's revolution, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi once again intensified the call to government officials to adhere to high standards of integrity and be accountable for their actions. Speaking while chairing the inaugural National Development Implementation Committee meeting at the Kenya School of Government, Mudavadi reiterated the government's commitment to listening to the voices of the people and embrace a more inclusive government that is sensitive to the emerging issues affecting majority of Kenyans, including high costs of living and lack of employment opportunities.
We must work together to build better relations between Parliament, constitutional commissions, county governments, and above all, with the people. The events of the past 2 weeks have taught us important lessons. We must listen more.
Mudavadi further applauded the historic step by the young Kenyan populace of exercising their constitutional right to canvass Parliament to reject the Finance Bill 2024 and passing a strong message to the government that they are not feeling what is being done.
In some instances, we gave them the ammunition to fight back by showing off our opulence. They are pointing out how insensitive we are to the impact of our decisions on the well-being of our people in the face of difficulties arising from domestic and external shocks.
The meeting also took time to observe a minute of silence in honor of the youth who lost their lives while exercising their democratic rights of peaceful demonstrations in the past 2 weeks. Mudavadi, however, stated that following the withdrawal of the 2024-2025 financial bill, the budget now has a gap of 346 billion shillings, a state that will make it difficult for the government to realize its commitment for the bottom-up economic transformation agenda programs, famously known as BETTER.
It is time for us to cut our cloth according to our size, through prudent utilization of the available resources and targeted investments in areas of the BETTER programs.
Speaking in agreement with the President, the Prime Cabinet Secretary stated that in the next general elections, the Kenya Kwanza government will seek re-election based on its scorecard.
This is a major challenge that also presents an opportunity for us to look at ourselves in the mirror, to evaluate whether we have lived up to the expectations of our citizens.
Theo Masharia for KUTV News.
And now to a somber mood. Justice David Amilcar Shikomera Majanja, a judge of the High Court of Kenya and Commissioner of the Judicial Service Commission, passed on Wednesday 10th July 2024 at a Nairobi hospital. Justice Majanja is said to have passed on while receiving a surgical treatment, with the cause of death yet to be revealed. However, he will still be remembered for playing a very critical role and contribution to the legal field.
With his zeal in law practicals, Justice David Amilcar Shikomera Majanja earned a Bachelor of Law LLB from University of Nairobi in 1996, gained an admission to the bar of 1998, and also earned a Masters of Law LLM in International Trade and Investment Law from the University of Pretoria in 2005. Majanja practiced law with notable firms before founding Majanja Luceno and Company Advocates after working for Mohammed and Muigai Advocates and Onyango and Ohaga Advocates in 2007. In 2011, Justice Majanja was appointed to serve as a judge in Homa Bay, Migori, Kisumu and Kisii High Courts, where he later served as a vice chairperson in the Judiciary Working Committee on Election Preparation, JWCEP. He also served at the Commercial and Tax Divisions and Milimani High Court Civil Division. At the Judicial Service Commission, JSC, Majanja was also a commissioner, the chair of the Administration of Justice Committee, and a member of the Judiciary Rules Committee. On 14th May 2019, Majanja was first elected to the JSC for a 5-year term following the end of Judge Aggrey Mechelule's 5-year tenure as a JSC male representative after his re-election to represent the Kenya Magistrate and Judges Association, KMJA. In November 2023, Justice Majanja presided over the 3 High Court judge bench with Justices Christine Meoli and Lawrence Mugambi that declared President Ruto housing levy unconstitutional. The late Justice Majanja practiced law, specializing in civil and commercial law, involved in public interest litigation and was assisting counsel for the Commission of Inquiry into the Post-Election Violence Waki Commission. On May 28, 2024, Majanja was sworn in as a member of the Judicial Service Commission. Before his re-election, Justice Majanja served as the chairperson of Human Resource Management Committee and a member of the Audit and also the chairperson of the Governance and Risk Management Committee and the Learning and Development Committee. Brian Auma, KUTV.
And deep condolences have filled the air to the family, relative, friends, and the entire judicial fraternity, mourning the sudden death of Judge of the High Court of Kenya, David Amilcar Shikomera Majanja, who passed on yesterday while undergoing treatment in Nairobi Hospital, as James Baraka now reports.
It is a dark day, and a big setback to the bar and the bench.
Following the sudden demise of the High Court of Kenya, Judge David Majanja, who also served as a commissioner of the Judicial Service Commission, deepest condolences from all across have filled the air, including from judicial staffs, government officials, and Kenyans mourning the late Majanja.
Justice Majanja did a very sterling job.
Leading the Department of Judiciary to mourn their fellow judge, Chief Justice Martha Koome announced this sudden death, indicating that Judge Majanja will be remembered as a main player in the development of the laws of Kenyan nation of reform after the year 2010. While expressing deep condolences on behalf of the government, President William Ruto highlighted that Majanja was a brilliant judge who joined the bench after an exemplary spell at the bar, with his powerful intellect making him a trusted judicial voice.
Justice Majanja was an industrious member of the bench.
According to the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Justice Majanja was a prolific, gifted mind that immensely contributed to redefining the legal profession and the justice system of the country in diverse ways. Additionally, the Law Society of Kenya President Faith Odhiambo stated that the country has lost one of the finest minds, whose contributions and commitment to the country's judicial services formed a legacy that will forever be remembered. As this happens, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Ingonga, termed Majanja an outstanding judge, a jurist, and a commissioner in the Judicial Service Commission who served with the utmost dedication and distinction. James Baraka, KUTV News.
All right. In a bid to recover stolen property from recent anti-finance bill protests, Embu County Commissioner Jack Obuo has announced a one-week amnesty. This follows the vandalism of KRA Northern Region offices and widespread destructions. Authorities have already charged 32 individuals for 16 incidents and are now pursuing more perpetrators of the violence. Let's get more from our very own Natalie Kioko.
Embu County Commissioner Jack Obuo, while addressing journalists at his office in Embu, expressed deep regret over the rampant vandalism and looting that marred the anti-finance bill protests. He strongly condemned those involved in the unlawful acts, emphasizing the need for accountability and justice.
Tunajua kwamba maandamano inakuwa protected kwa constitution, lakini wale wanachukua nafasi ya peaceful demonstration ndio waharibu mali za serikali. Haya watu hatutakubaliana nazo.
The county commissioner then announced that he has granted 1 week amnesty to the perpetrators in possession of stolen items.
Tumefanya consultation na tunapeana amnesty sana wale wako na vifaa, wale wako na vitu ambao ziliporwa.
Commissioner Obuo stated that the police in the county had already charged 23 individuals in connection to 16 incidences of property destruction.
On top of wale 23 ambaye wako kotini, leo umeona tuko case moja. Ukienda Chicago, tuko na cases. Wale walipora mali ya one of the businessmen uko upande ya Kiritiri.
Security agencies are still making efforts to seek out and bring to justice violent goons who destroyed property at KRA and governor's offices valued at 20 million and 150 million shillings respectively. Natalie Kioko, KUTV.
All right, that story by Natalie Kioko takes us to our second break here on KUTV Primetime News. But The actual number of those who have been, charged is actually 23 and not 32. Anyway, let's take that short break. Up next, Sports News.
Kenyatta University will hold its 55th graduation ceremony on Friday, 19th July 2024 at the main campus along the Thika Superhighway. KUTV will provide live coverage of the graduation ceremony from 8 a.m. The ceremony will also be streamed live on KUTV and KU website, Lola app and all KU social media platforms. For more information, please contact the Office of the Registrar Academic on 020-870-3092 or 0786-335111 or visit the KU website on www.ku.ac.ke. The theme for the graduation ceremony is Education for Prosperity and Sustainable Development. Kenyatta University, transforming higher education, enhancing lives.
Are you healthy, or rather, do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? According to WHO, health is regarded as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Welcome to Focus on Health, a show on all matters health, wellness, and lifestyle. On this show, we cover a wide variety of topics inclusive of, but not limited to, dental, optical, mental, reproductive health, and so much more. Join me, Joy Bofenda, every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on KUTV for compelling insights and discussions on all matters health. See you then.
Focus on Health, your weekly dose of health and wealth information on KUTV.
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
But folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
Pepo pasi vuguvugu. Pepo pa ni idea.
Tazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, hiyo inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni duniani leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
Right, let's talk sporting. Now, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, or if you prefer the acronym NOC, has received a directive to expedite key preparation for Team Kenya ahead of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Meanwhile, former Boston and Chicago Marathon winner Lawrence Cherono faces a lengthy ban after he was found guilty of doping. Here is more from KUTV Sport Desk with Brenda Nyongesa.
The National Olympics Committee of Kenya is under pressure to finalize the Team Kenya delegation for the Paris 2024 Olympics, following directives from outgoing Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba and the Preparatory and Management Committee. NOC is tasked to prioritize athletes, their coaches, and medical staff. According to Namwamba, the final budget will reflect the actual number of qualified athletes, revised allowances, and rewards, all while adhering to the ministry's austerity measures. NOC will also prepare a detailed report on the procurement process, status and cost of the ceremonial, training and competition kits for Team Kenya, ensuring transparency and accountability. Elsewhere, Lawrence Cherono, a prominent Kenyan marathon runner, has been handed a 7-year ban for violating anti-doping regulations. Cherono is the latest athlete to fall victim of doping menace that continues to retain the integrity of athletics in the country. And in rugby, Jerome Powaters has named the 28-man Simba squad set to travel for the 2024 Rugby African Cup that will be held at Mandela National Stadium from the 18th to the 29th July 2024. Brenda Nyongesa, KUTV.
And now Ole Watkins came from bench to score a stoppage time winner to send England into their second successive European Championship final as they came from behind to beat Netherlands 2-1. Service Simons had brilliantly fired Netherlands ahead with a 7th minute screamer before Harry Kane struck home 11 minutes later to level the matter. The England will now face Spain in Berlin on Sunday, the 14th of July, in what will be one of the most competitive finals in the European football. That's all we had prepared for you this particular evening. Many thanks for the men and women behind the scene, and of course for you, our esteemed viewers, for always keeping us a company. My good name is Auma Evans. John Opio has been our sign language interpreter tonight. Do have a lovely night. See you next time. Goodbye for now.
Kenyatta University will hold its 55th graduation ceremony on Friday, 19th July 2024 at the main campus